days.
Good evening and welcome to Western Spring Global on Western Spring Television. Now the headlines. Ahead of the 2023 general election, the National Universities Commission orders universities to close from 22nd of February to 14th of March. A magnitude 5.1 earthquake hits Indonesia's Papua province, killing at least 4 persons. Australia's Department of Defense to strip its buildings of Chinese-made security cameras. My name is Evelyn Ohiola. We begin with the 2023 polls. The National Universities Commission, NUC, has ordered the country's universities to close from 22nd of February to 14th of March because of the general elections, which will be held on the 25th of February. In a letter addressed to vice-chancellors of all universities and directors of inter-university centers, the NUC revealed that the directive was from the Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu. The Commission noted that after extensive consultations with the relevant security agencies, the Minister gave the directive. The decision follows concerns about the safety and security of staff and students during the poll. Here in Osun, a civil society organization, the Osun Masterminds, has called for speedy resolution of the Naira and fuel crisis in the country before it snowballs into a national disaster that may not only affect the conduct of the coming elections, but also throw the country into unprecedented chaos. In its State of the State address for February 2023, the organization said the hardship is unbearable and it is affecting the already fragile productivity of Nigerians who now have to suffer untold difficulties to go about their daily activities. While speaking at a news conference, Executive Director of the Osun Masterminds, Professor Wasiu Oyedokunwale, and a member of the group, Comrade Ayo Ologun, both called on all organs of government to immediately take on a more responsible posture in dealing with the present crisis and attendant reactions to it by Nigerians. The Osun Masterminds also condemned an attempt to blackmail the group by persons loyal to the government of the day in Osun State, stating that the group will not be bullied into silence by a mob. The group, however, commended Osun State Governor Senator Ademola Adeleke for his recent approval of the payment of salary arrears owed civil servants in the state by the administration of Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. On the proposed Ilesha University, Professor Wasiu Oyedokunwale called on the government to not put a stop to the process, adding that fresh students should have resumed for lectures at this period. The Osun Masterminds also called on the federal government to pay salary arrears to lecturers of universities across the country in the best interest of academic activities in the country's schools.
We are proud by the decision of the Osun State government to put on hold activities at the University of Ilesha. You are aware that the last administration assembled heads who midwife the university under the able leadership of Emeritus Professor Oloaino, several former vice chancellors and proven technocrats. The university has been put in place by the force of law as sanctioned by the Osun State House of Assembly, and NUC, JAM, etc. have all put the university on their website. We must say about the statute of Fuel and Naira notes that there appears to be a grand and very sinister plan by certain enemies of the good people of Nigeria to throw our society into serious crisis. If this were not so, the baseless scarcity would not have been allowed to tarry for this long.
So we believe strongly that the people who are these motions are being toyed with, but notwithstanding, we're also very cautious not to lead people to the streets and end up not being able to control them. That's why we invited to a press conference and not protest. But of course, we put a caveat people's expectation, you can be sure that we'll be left with no choice than to do that which we are wanting to do. If you saw what happened in Ibadan, what happened in Abeokuta.
There is an attempt by this regime in Osun State, and the attempt is unfortunately being coordinated by the spokesman of the governor, and we have been challenged openly on so many occasions not to speak against this government. I want to just restate it here, that we have not even started speaking yet, and if anyone think we can be silenced, then that person will definitely be on a long journey. We are prepared, we are not willing to be silent, and will be available to scrutinize every conduct of everyone, whether you are in government or out of government, as long as it does not conform with the...
Still in Osun, the residents of the state will once again enjoy the dividends of democracy as the state government is set to organize a free surgical outreach tagged Imole Surgical and Medical Outreach. At a press briefing today in Osogbo, the CMD, Uni-Osun Teaching Hospital, Osogbo, Professor Peter Babatunde Olaitan, rolled out what the outreach would be like, and our reporter, Olayinka Ale, was there and completes the story.
Osun State Government has announced plans to commence a quarterly free mobile surgical and medical outreach across the 9 federal constituencies of the state. The program tagged the Imole Surgical and Medical Outreach is aimed at expanding the quality health coverage to the people of Osun State and especially rural dwellers. At a media briefing held today at the Uni-Osun Teaching Hospital, Osogbo, the Chief Medical Director, Professor Peter Babatunde Olaitan, stated that the outreach will cover up medical conditions like hypertension, diabetes, malaria, cough, tuberculosis, and other diseases. Will also be treated by a team of medical practitioners assembled by the state government to make the quarterly program a huge success.
It has to touch the lives of many people in the state in terms of their health care and medical care. And that's why he has set up this a committee to look into how we can address and attend to the health needs of our people. And so Mr. Governor has directed all the health institutions and health workers in the state to ensure that this program is implemented. And the program is aimed at least giving health care to about 2,000 individuals at every of the 9 federal constituencies in the state. And so this program is supposed to be attending to several parts of the health care of the people.
Professor Olaitan said surgeries covered by the free mobile surgical and medical outreach include cataracts, hernia, hydrocele, lipoma, keloids, and some swellings on the body. The outreach, which was recently approved by Governor Ademola Adeleke, is set to begin on Wednesday, 15th of February 2023 in Iwo Federal Constituency. The program, which will be coordinated by the Osun State University Teaching Hospital, will be held in state hospitals in the Iwo, Ede, Ikire, Ila-Orogun, Ikirun, Okuku, Ile-Ife, Ilesha, and Ikwetu Ijesha on designated dates.
We're looking at patients who have cataract, who have been blind because of the cataract, and patients who have something we call pterygium, which is like a tissue growing across the eye. So they will also be involved. They will also be operated on. The third part, which is non-surgical, non-medical, are patients who have eye problem and need glasses. Okay, those ones also will be assessed based on their need, and glasses will be provided for them at the different locations. So basically, these are the 3 groups of patients that will be attending to during this outreach.
The governor is expected to flag off the Imole Mobile Surgical and Medical Outreach on Wednesday, 15th of February 2023 in Iwo Federal Constituency, while other constituencies will follow immediately. Olayinka Ale, Western Spring Television News.
Outside Nigeria, Eritrea has reportedly punished the family members of thousands of alleged draft evaders during a conscription drive intended to bolster its military campaign in neighboring Ethiopia. The Human Rights Watch, in a report today, said women as old as 71 were arbitrarily detained and expelled from their homes as the authorities sought to locate their missing relatives. It said security forces went door to door to identify draft dodgers and detained people who could not account for missing family members. However, Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki dismissed the reports of alleged war crimes committed by his troops during the conflict in northern Ethiopia. President Isaias, speaking in Kenya following a bilateral meeting with his counterpart, William Ruto, said the claims were part of a disinformation campaign by detractors of the peace deal reached between the Ethiopian government and Tigrayan forces.
Don't try to drag us into a situation. But again, this question will have to go to a factory. A factory I call fabricating lies and disinformation, and go ask that factory or the owner of that factory who is talking about human rights abuse, who is talking about so many things happening on the ground. It's a fantasy of those who want to derail any peace process achieving its goal. If you are interested, I say you're wasting your time. Everybody talking about human rights, violations here and there, rape, looting. This is a fantasy in the minds of those who are owning this factory I call a factory of fabricating misinformation.
In Kenya, the head of Kenya Police Service has disowned a reported operation on the home of former Interior Minister Fred Matiang'i in Nairobi yesterday night. Inspector General Japhet Koome told journalists that no officers under the National Police Service were sent to the former minister's residence. The ex-minister's lawyer had yesterday said Mr. Matiang'i was holed up in his home and accused the government of trying to falsely accuse and frame his client. Opposition leader Raila Odinga and a host of politicians arrived at the home for a night vigil following the incident. Said police had surrounded Mr. Matiang'i's home and criticized what he described as the return of midnight arrests without charges. As of this afternoon, Fred Matiang'i's lawyers went to court to seek anti-participatory bail.
What has transpired essentially is that we seek in the interim that let justice reign.
Experience yesterday night is that threats officers are being sent to our client's premises without plan.
What has transpired essentially is that we seek in the interim that let justice reign, in as much as probably there will be something that it's purported to have been done by Dr. Fred Matiang'i.
Elsewhere, Rwandan President Paul Kagame has accused his Congolese counterpart Felix Tshisekedi of dishonoring several agreements and addressing the conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Tensions between the African Great Lakes region neighbors continue to rise as DR Congo accuses Rwanda of invading its territory disguised in M23 rebels. In an address to diplomats in Rwanda yesterday night, Mr. Kagame criticized Mr. Tshisekedi for failing to address Congo's internal issue and putting the blame on Rwanda. Last weekend's East African Heads of State meeting in Bujumbura, Burundi, directed immediate ceasefire, withdrawal of all foreign groups, and the need for dialogue among all parties.
Find ourselves in today, or it has always been like this, or it will always be like this. But in politics and in diplomacy, there tends to lack, or rather, people don't tend to commit to the truth, to facts, or evidence. It is only everything in between. You avoid the truth, there's avoidance of facts, or evidence. So the truth tends to be a matter of perception, or is subjective. And that's how we go along. And sometimes things defy logic or reason.
Outside Africa, a magnitude 5.1 earthquake struck Indonesia's Papua province this morning, killing at least 4 people. According to local officials, residents had already recovered the 4 victims' bodies from the sea. According to the head of the local disaster management agency, Asef Khalid, the victims were in the waterfront cafe when the quake struck the provincial capital and destroyed the building. The shallow quake also caused damage to homes and other structures, including the city's main shopping mall. Patients at the Jayapura General Hospital were taken outside the building, Khalid said. According to the National Geophysics Agency, the quake struck at 3:28 p.m. local time at a depth of 10 kilometers. A 3-month state of emergency in southern Turkey's 10 quake-hit provinces has entered into force after a vote in parliament. President Recep Erdogan had on Tuesday announced that the 3-month state of emergency to speed up search and rescue efforts. This comes as death toll from the earthquakes in Turkey rose to 16,170. Deaths in Turkey and Syria now exceeds 19,300, surpassing the death toll from Japan's Fukushima disaster in 2011. Earlier, the president defended his government's response to 2 catastrophic earthquakes, saying it was impossible to prepare for the scale of the disaster. Critics claimed the emergency services response was too slow and the government was poorly prepared. Mr. Erdogan accepted the government had encountered some problems, but said the situation was now under control. Meanwhile, the first United Nations aid convoy since a magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck on Monday has crossed into northwest Syria from Turkey. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, confirmed the development, revealing that 6 trucks of shelter items and non-food item kits reached Bab Awa this morning. The head of OCHA in Turkey, Sanjana Kwazi, said the UN cross-border aid operation had been reinstated today. He stated that it was relieving that aid are able to reach the people in northwest Syria at this present time, stating that he hopes the operation continues as it was a humanitarian lifeline. The flow of humanitarian aid had been temporarily disrupted since the first pre-dawn quake hit on Monday due to logistical issues and damage to the road connecting Gaziantep to the UN transshipment hub in Hatay. The Russia-Ukraine war. To the Russia-Ukraine war, President Volodymyr Zelensky says Ukraine will win the war against Russia and become a European Union member. Mr. Zelensky stated this during a summit with the 27 national EU leaders in Brussels ahead of the first anniversary of the war, revealing that there is no free Europe without a free Ukraine. He said the unity of Europe is fundamental to security, adding that his country, together with the Union, was defending itself against the biggest anti-European force of the modern world. Mr. Zelensky had earlier thanked the European Parliament for helping Ukraine defend itself against the Russian invasion. While Mr. Zelensky is unlikely to leave with immediate pledges to satisfy his requests for fighter jets, if the visit gives him a chance to argue his case in person with all of the EU's 27 national leaders for the first time since Russia invaded last year. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Russia must build a system for developing drones and that the country should be a source of technology and competence. Russian forces have extensively used drones in Ukraine, including those purchased from Iran. Mr. Putin, speaking at a meeting with senior officials broadcast on state television, said foreign companies were losing out due to leaving the country's market amid Western sanctions. He added that the potential for domestic business expansion was colossal and the country had not lost out from the departure of the foreign businesses. You're watching Spring Global on Western Spring Television. We will be back after this break.
1914 Amalgamation Treaty is synonymous to the birth of Nigeria. Frederick Lugard, a British Army captain and an outlaw who struck gold in Africa, became the instrument used by destiny to make it happen. The amalgamation of Nigeria was designed for economic reasons by the colonial administration to offset Northern Protectorate budget deficit by Southern Protectorate surplus returns. The amalgamation had an issue created imbalance in the economic political structure of Nigeria and was responsible for the persistent hiccups and the efforts to forge a united country till today. Nigeria's amalgamation was labeled as the mistake of 1914 by native Northern conservatives who neither wanted it nor contributed anything significant to its sustenance. Western Springer Television identifies with Amalgamation Treaty of 1914 as a watershed event in history.
Welcome back. In Australia, Department of Defense says it will strip its buildings of Chinese-made security cameras to ensure they are completely secure. The decision to remove the camera equipment follows similar decisions in the United States and the United Kingdom, which have also taken measures to ban Chinese-made cameras at sensitive sites. Australian Defense Minister Richard Marles stated this today, stating that it is a significant thing that's been brought to the ministry attention and it was going to fix it. Mr. Marles told national broadcaster that it's important that the ministry go through the exercise and make sure that its facilities are completely secure. According to official figures, at least 913 Chinese-made cameras had been installed across more than 250 Australian government buildings, including the Departments of Defense, Foreign Affairs, Finance, and Attorney General. Elsewhere, North Korea demonstrated its missile production muscle during a nighttime military parade that showcased more intercontinental ballistic missiles, ICBMs, than ever unveiled at one time before. The widely anticipated parade was held in Pyongyang yesterday night to mark the 75th anniversary of the founding of the North Korean Army. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un attended the parade with his daughter, who is seen as playing a possible future leadership role in the country's hereditary dictatorship. According to local media, the ICBMs paraded through the capital demonstrated North Korea's greatest nuclear strike capability, stating that it also featured tactical nuclear units. The parade also featured a new launcher that may indicate the development of a new solid-fuel missile system. Let's talk sports. The International Olympic Committee has urged Ukraine to drop threats of boycotting Paris 2024 if Russian and Belarusian athletes compete. IOC President Thomas Bach has told Ukraine's Olympic Committee that such threats are extremely regrettable. Ukraine is hoping to gain international support for a ban on athletes from the two countries over Russia's invasion. The IOC has said it will explore a pathway for Russian and Belarusian athletes to compete as neutrals. Ukraine Sports Minister Vadim needs to compete. The 2024 Olympics would amount to showing that terror is somehow acceptable. Italian skier Elena Fancini has died aged 37 after a battle with cancer. The Italian Winter Sports Federation said she passed away at her home in Solato. Fancini competed at the 2006, 2010 and 2014 Winter Olympics, but was forced to withdraw from Pyeongchang 2018 when she was diagnosed with cancer. Fancini made 4 World Cup podiums, winning 2 gold medals in downhill 2005 and 2015. Before we end Spring Global, here is a recap of our top stories. The National Universities Commission, NUC, has ordered the country's universities to close from 22nd February to 14th March because of the general elections, which will be held on 25th of February. A magnitude 5.1 earthquake struck Indonesia's Papua province this morning, killing at least 4 people. Australia's Department of Defense says it will strip its buildings of Chinese-made security cameras to ensure that they are completely secure. Remember to follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Evelyn Ohiole. Many thanks for your time.